I want to say cheers for helping me hit our goal of 300 subs. We actually surpassed this on the weekend, so I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I decided to hold off on making a guide on the new curse role Soulbound, as I didn't want to make a guide on something I haven't often played as. As time has passed, I've managed to play as a Soulbound quite a lot, and I found some few interesting strats and learning the role even more. Before we jump into this guide, literally 98% of you are unsubscribed, so if you're looking for Deceit 2 content, guides, and more, make sure to hit subscribe and help me hit 500 subs. If you enjoyed this video or find it helpful, drop a like and let's see if we can hit 50 likes on this video. And if you have any suggestions, make sure to drop a comment down below. Soulbound is a new curse role introduced in Season 3 of Deceit 2. This role completely changed the game and is very interesting, but can be a bit overwhelming when you try it out for the first time. The Soulbound is similar to the Warden in a way that when you bind a player and convert them to the curse team, if you or your bound teammate dies, you also die. Unlike the Mimic, you don't have to wait for 2 people to die to bind someone, but you must wait until the first in-between phase ends in order to choose a player. Unlike the Mimic, when you have selected a player, the whole lobby will be informed that there is a Soulbound and that they have bounded to someone. You and your teammate will have a separate voice chat like infected players, so you can communicate privately to build up alibis, strats, etc. The early game. As you begin your game as Soulbound, you won't be able to do much until the first night phase has ended. I would suggest trying to stall tasks if you can, as the end game is very important, but we'll talk about that later in the video. As Soulbound, the first thing to do is try and figure out what roles people are so that you can bind someone with a sweet role rather than an ordinary human, which you can still win with, by the way. It's just, you know, it's not going to have much benefit. Something that I've found is that binding to an infected player comes with a big risk, because if they get sussed out, they will inevitably be hunted, which adds a lot of pressure on your end. I personally believe if you select a human role like Warden, Guardian, Seer, or Inquisitor, gives you a lot more validity, as these players can clear themselves and then you can ask them to vouch for you in team chat. This allows for mass deception if done correctly. I found that every game that I bind to an innocent, it allows us to reach endgame easily, but there's a catch: the mid game. So you've assessed the lobby and you can finally bind to someone. Pick wisely. You can now use your voice chat and communicate with your teammate. A lot of players are still new to this role and not sure what it does, and will probably question, what now? Well, you have to essentially be the last team standing in order to win. If you did pick an innocent role like Guardian, you can use this to your advantage in the in-between. Your teammate can guard you and you will be protected and cleared if 2 terrors are roaming. Mid-game is pretty much all about survival within reality and the in-between, so don't start stacking up on pistols. You still need your camera or your flashlight. The in-between is probably more intimidating now more than ever, because you have to look out for another player till death do us part, quite literally. I would try not to announce anyone that you suss, as this brings attention to you. I would rather ask your cleared teammate to suss you and then test you. This allows you to be cleared by them, and other players should believe this due to their role if done correctly. Don't randomly have your teammate say, "Hey yo, get tested." If they are Seer, for example, you can say to them to test you, as they didn't see you and couldn't clear you in the in-between. This is a valid reason and it's very strong. If you picked a Guardian, you can ask them to secretly tell a player that they have been guarded, but in fact they don't, and the reason for this, I'll explain in just a second. The endgame. Endgame for Soulbound can either be pretty clean or very messy. From my experience, there hasn't been an in-between, no pun intended. It can be similar to the chemist. Once you reach endgame, the key cannot be picked up whilst the Soulbound are alive. This will cause players to pretty much go rampant and panic. You also have until the ritual begins collapsing before you are banished. If you reach the final showdown, which was introduced in Season 3 as a Soulbound, you need to eliminate the entire lobby before the timer runs out. You can see the timer as the blood filling up in your portrait in the bottom left. If this fills up, you are automatically banished. If there are players during the final showdown or the key is available, you have a short amount of time to execute everyone, especially if they need to be voted. So the infected are kind of your best bet here. You want infected to pick off players so that you don't have to deal with X amount of players in the endgame. Tips, tricks, and info. So to answer some of the questions in the video, why would your teammate fake protect someone as a Guardian? Well, if done correctly, the only player that knows that they have been protected will die. This eliminates them and helps your endgame. You want to use infected to your advantage, but also play it safe within the in-between. I would personally try to figure out who is the Seer or Guardian, as I believe those two are the most powerful to be bound to you. Infected can work in situations, but if they aren't very good at being sneaky and tend to do blood altars, this causes a lot of issues for you. It's worth mentioning that if you do decide to pick an infected player, that they will lose communication with their teammate, and they will also notice that you have a Soulbound symbol beside your name, which I think should somewhat be changed. Also to note on this, I haven't tested it because I haven't had the chance. I've not been lucky enough. There is a keybind to change your voice chat, so I believe that if you're infected and Soulbound, you may be able to swap between voice chats, which means that you can talk to your infected teammate and then talk to your cursed teammate. I've not managed to actually have this happen to me. I had the luck of being infected and then been Soulbound, but once I get it, I'll leave a comment at the top of this video to clarify if you can or can't. If you're a Warden or something and someone binds to you, if you get in the vat will glow red, as you are now part of the cursed team. This can be used, but with caution. For example, clearing yourself as Warden, then testing an innocent and pinning them as killer can work quite well. I actually made a mistake. As it turned red, I marked the other player expecting them to be infected as they were suspected, but they were actually human, and me and my teammate died. So be cautious if you are Warden. I do think this needs some tweaking. When assign you as a Soulbound Warden, it should banish the other player as they're the opposite team to you. Just a suggestion to the devs, make it happen. As stated in many of my previous guides, whether you're cursed or infected, the mask is by far one of the best items that you can pick up from the peddler. So I would definitely make sure I'm picking up the mask and try and get some early disruption and maybe even get a kill. You can see in this clip here that I turn into Lisa, I knock 2 people, they vote out Lisa. She could have been infected, she could have not been infected. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you're trying to kill everyone in the lobby. Soulbound is ruthless. But yeah, if you guys enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a thumbs up. And we're close to 500 subs, so let's try and make that mark, reach that goal. And yeah, I appreciate you. And let me know down in the comments what you think about the Soulbound and if there's any other guides that you want to see. Peace.